Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ian Witherspoon, and I am between Taorminas. That's crazy. Welcome back to the show. I am Ian Witherspoon, joined by the Taorminas, Anthony, the undisputed king of weather, Oakland University's finest, and Mr. Sandy Dunes himself, script shot put coach, Salvatore Sammy Taormina. Boys, how we doing?
Hanging in.
I think we're recording now, so I think we're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
We have a couple topics to get to today. One, the Detroit Lions losing, winning. What are they doing? Who are they? Big Ten Conference football, and finally Lake Orion playoffs, football playoffs. Let's start with the Lions. Let's start with Anthony. What's going on?
I think that the Lions, I think they're succumbing a little bit to the pressure of the fans. I think playing at home, it's hard to win at home in front of those fans who want, as I said last week, they want to see a winning product in Detroit, and I think you're seeing it right now. Also, the 49ers and the Falcons both of them have really good running games.
Yep.
Two good running backs.
And the Lions have had trouble stopping good running teams.
And also, where is the offense, particularly Matt Stafford?
Right.
I'm beginning to wonder if Matt Stafford is falling to the pressure of winning in Detroit, because people in Detroit want to win so bad.
They're starving. Right.
And
but
I'm not saying that the season is lost.
Absolutely not. 2 losses.
They've got a schedule that's very, very winnable.
Certain
coming
spots
up in the future.
Yep. Sam.
Where's Matt Stafford gone? If you look at the last 2 games, ever since the Monday night game, the Lions are 0-2.
Yeah.
I mean, in both those losses, Anthony, you are right on a couple of things, but where is the offensive line in this? You got to look at it based on that perspective. Is that if you're seeing the Lions, then then look at their offensive line. If you want to win in the National Football League, you got to have a strong offensive line and a strong running game. The Lions don't have that right now.
Right. And I think we're seeing the remnants of post-Millen era. This regime of Mayhew and Schwartz have done a good job drafting talent positions, high-need positions. But we see the leftovers, which is the offensive line. They haven't drafted offensive line. You know what I mean?
No. I can't believe I'm saying this, because I know Matt Millen deserves a lot of blame for what happened in Detroit. But I mean, I don't know if you can blame Matt Millen for what's going on right now.
No, you can't. But we're just seeing, these older pieces that definitely need to be upgraded.
Wait
in the line.
Matt Millen, half of it is his fault. He drafted these players. He drafted Loyola. He drafted Cheerless. He drafted Backus. If you look at what Millen's done, he's had a history of making poor draft decisions.
Right.
I mean, he was basically.
But this is a new team right now.
16.
Yeah.
This is a new team.
It's not a bad line though either.
No, it's not.
It's an average line. And they can't run. They've done a good job stopping the sacks, except for when they've gone against San Francisco.
Well, the defense has been tired the last 2 games because the offense can't put a drive together.
Right.
If you look at those 2 losses, the Lions had trouble putting drives together.
There's too much pressure on the defense.
I give credit to San Francisco and Atlanta as well. Both of them are, they're becoming pretty established. They're good teams. They're more than capable of getting into the playoffs.
Right.
And I think that those games are going to make the Lions better in the long run, because those are the type of teams that the Lions are going to see if they're going to make the playoffs and even get the Super Bowl.
And something to note about teams like the 49ers and the Falcons. Falcons have had success last year going 14-2. 49ers are kind of up-and-comers. They have a great front
Avenue
seven.
Coach and Jim Harbaugh.
Right. But them getting up and being emotional and very excited to come into Ford Field and win shows you that these aren't the same old Lions anymore.
Well, Ford Field has been a really tough place to play now these last few weeks. Look at the Chicago Bears.
Right.
The Lions won that on Monday night. They took down the Bears, and the Ford Field was rocking.
Yeah.
You know, and if you look at, I thought Atlanta did a good job of this, but during practice they created some speakers that that could help counter
Right.
the Ford Field noise,
Right.
and that may be one of the things why the Lions might have lost. You know,
Yeah.
like if you look at it, the crowd wasn't much of a factor in the Lions' 2 losses.
Right, right.
I think that there was more excitement.
There
from
definitely
the fans.
was.
And
There definitely
I'm not
was.
saying the fans weren't excited for the last 2 games at home, but there's obviously more pressure to win at home, and there's and it's a lot more, easier and comfortable because you're not there to impress the fans if
Yeah.
you're on the road.
Right.
And I think that it's possible, but fact is the Lions are going on the road next week. They're playing Denver.
A winnable game.
Very winnable, especially Tim Tebow,
Hey,
as good
yeah,
as
Tim
good
Tebow.
as he can be.
Yeah. He's not there yet.
He's
And he's a long way away.
He's still a long way to
Yeah.
go. I mean, his story is good and all that, but I mean,
yada, yada, yada.
I think that the Lions have gotten a lot more. They're more established. They're a little bit more experienced than the Broncos, and I really like the Lions on Sunday.
Can't believe we're saying that about the Lions, More
I think
experience.
the Lions have a good chance to win on Sunday against Denver, but what's going to depend on the weather and the altitude. You know what I mean? The Lions have not been in a place of altitude,
Right.
as much as they're going to be with Denver.
Right.
And there may be snow. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
May
there
be
is supposed to be snow on.
But we've seen them battle the heat in Tampa to start the season.
Yeah.
They played well there. Let's go to the next extreme. Hey, and the last game of the year, Lambeau Field.
At Lambeau
Yeah.
Field in Green
Right.
Bay. That is not going to be an easy game.
That's also been a
especially-
house of horrors for the Lions too.
The
Right.
Lions have not won there since,
Like
I believe,
92?
1992, I
Something
believe.
ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah, and that's ridiculous enough as it is.
Right.
I mean, like if you look at it, if the Lions can win, I can see them going 12-4. Probably making a playoff run. But
Yeah.
it can be possible.
Yeah. All right. From there, we're gonna take a brief break. When we come back, we're gonna talk Big Ten Conference football. You're watching Between Taorminas on Orion Neighborhood Television
Or ONTV.
or ONTV.
Did you know that you can watch ONTV on the web? How cool is that? Just surf on over to www.orionontv.org to watch your favorite on-TV show. A service of Orion Neighborhood Television.
Orion Neighborhood Television has been your community connection for the last 20 years. From local concerts and sports to resident-made original programming, we are the voice of Lake Orion. Featuring a large professional studio, ONTV can provide you with the tools you need to make a quality program. Our staff is knowledgeable, friendly, and eager to help with your program success. Your voice, your community, on TV.
Can ONTV really be a part of Orion's history? Can a 100-year-old school be moved and preserved?
ONTV, a part of Orion's history since 1986.
Welcome back to segment 2 of Between Taorminas here on Orion Neighborhood Television. We're going to talk Big Ten Conference football. We had a thrilling weekend with State and Wisconsin. It was a great game, but one of the best finishes in Spartan history.
Unbelievable. I mean, like, if you look at it, one of the best games in Big Ten football history. I mean, Michigan State is they are a gutsy team. If you look at, and they've been that ever since Mark D'Antonio came over to East Lansing in 2006 from Cincinnati. Mark D'Antonio has led Michigan State to 4 straight wins over Michigan. He's also beaten Wisconsin twice. And he's also, he beat Ohio State this year. Michigan State's October has been brutal.
But the Spartans have set themselves up for what could be another special season.
I agree, but they got to win in Lincoln.
Yes.
I think one thing about Michigan State football is it's unbelievable. I mean, they've in the last 2 years they have had the last two big time finishes as far as like last year was Notre Dame, this year was Wisconsin.
Yep.
And you got to really give credit to Keith Nickel for obviously his story. He came in as a quarterback and then he
put the work in.
He put the work in to become a wide receiver and
a vital part of State's offense. Yep.
And you've got to give credit to what Michigan State is doing. I applaud them for what they did. Obviously, they beat Ohio State at Ohio State.
Yep.
They beat Michigan for 4 years.
Yep.
If they can get by Nebraska.
Yeah.
In Lincoln.
Do you think they can?
I think they can.
You think they can?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Why?
What's the key to the game there?
I would say you have to for any road team, you got to take the crowd out of the game.
Right. And Lincoln is quite volatile there.
And if you look at every road team, that's the intention, is to take the crowd out of the game early. If you do that, if you have a quiet crowd, it becomes basically fair game.
Right.
And the home team doesn't exactly have the advantage of of using the fans on their side.
Yep.
So I think if they take the
also another thing is you got to shut down Nebraska's running game. You got Taylor Martinez and Rex Burkhead. If you take those two guys out of the game, and I think Michigan State's got the speed on defense to do that, and they're going to have William Golston back for this game, I think Michigan State can go into Lincoln and beat Nebraska. I think it could beat them by 2 scores because if you look at what Nebraska did against Ohio State, Ohio State had them, but then again Nebraska came back because if you can force Taylor Martinez to be a passer,
which he is even worse than Denard.
He is worse than Denard Robinson.
Yeah.
Then Nebraska is in trouble.
Yep. And look at the shellacking Wisconsin put on Nebraska.
Yeah. I mean, Wisconsin beat them up pretty bad in Madison.
Yep.
Remember, it was in Madison.
That's true.
Whereas,
that's a good point.
what if the game was in Lincoln? Do you think that the result would have been the same?
In Madison? Well, the Michigan State game in Madison? Oh yeah, it would have been a lot different. I mean, but if you look at it, I do agree with you on the fact of Wisconsin and Lincoln. It's the it would have been much different, but still, if you look at it, if Michigan State wins on Saturday against Nebraska, they would not only lead the Legends, but also have the tiebreakers over Michigan, Nebraska, and those are the 2 top teams in the Legends division.
Yeah.
If they can go in and also in November they play at Iowa and win there, then you got yourself a pretty good road to maybe even the Rose Bowl.
All right. That being said about the Rose Bowl, Indianapolis Big Ten championship game. Who do you foresee playing in that?
I can see Michigan State going
a rematch
to Indianapolis.
A rematch with
it's
Wisconsin?
Possible. It's very possible that you could see a rematch of that classic game. I'm very curious to see how they would do in a neutral site compared to being in East Lansing.
I can see this happening. It's Michigan State versus Wisconsin. Wisconsin still's got to deal with Ohio State this weekend, which is not going to be an easy game for them, especially in Columbus. And I think Michigan State, their schedule, their road is still brutal enough as it is. You got to make sure that if for Michigan State, they got to win the games that they have to win, and they got to win the 3 games they got to win are all road games. They got to win at Nebraska, at Iowa, and at Northwestern to finish the year. And that's going to be a cold, cold, cold game on Lake Michigan shores. That may not be. And remember last year, Michigan State fell 17-0 to Northwestern, and they came back from that game.
Right.
If you look at it, I think this is going to be Michigan State is a very good team. I think they're going to do a lot of damage this season.
Quickly, let's touch on Michigan, because their season is not lost yet. They lost 1 game in the Big Ten, 1 game overall. Well, where do you see them going this year?
It depends on their defense. If Michigan's defense keeps improving under Brady Hoke, under Greg Madison, the defensive coordinator, Michigan's going to go places. I like them in their game against Ohio State. I like them in their game against Nebraska. even though both games are in Ann Arbor.
That's gonna be a very
I think
similar
Michigan.
game.
I think Michigan can go maybe at least 8-4, 9-3. You know, I mean, like, you know, we'll just see where they're at.
The more and more I think of where Michigan will go for a bowl game, I am looking in beautiful San Antonio, Texas at the Alamo.
Really?
They don't have the Alamo Bowl there anymore.
They don't?
No.
Where's the Alamo Bowl?
The Alamo Bowl is between, I think it's the Big 12 and the Big East this year.
You're kidding.
So basically, I can see maybe Capital One for Michigan, but I also think possibly that you can look at the Gator Bowl maybe back for Michigan maybe. I mean like experts have also said where Michigan could be, you know, maybe down in the lower bowls.
So they're not going to Little Caesars Bowl.
No, they will not go to Little Caesars
How about
Bowl.
this? If Michigan loses 2 games, State has their 1 loss. Is there a Rose Bowl possibility?
There is
For
a
Michigan?
For Michigan?
No.
A 2-loss Michigan team versus
Two-loss Michigan team will not go to the Rose Bowl.
versus a 1-loss MSU team.
No, because Michigan State would have the tiebreaker on Michigan,
That's
and that's
true.
one of the indicators of the Legends division.
That's true.
Is the tiebreaker system that is put in this year? That was new.
But piggybacking on what we said last week, college football is about money.
Yes, it
Michigan
is.
is a bigger name. They're kind of a starving fan base.
Yes.
They're well-traveled fan base.
Yes, that's true.
You know.
Yeah,
It
but
could
also
be like
you
that,
got-
but if it is, then that's all politics.
Exactly, and that's
You also
That's
got Nebraska. You know, they're a well-traveled fan base. You know, they're like half the fans came to Minneapolis last week were from Lincoln.
well, yeah. No one really has an excuse to go to a Minnesota game though anymore right now. Sorry, I know you're a Gopher fan, but.
At one point, I was, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, okay, let's put a cap on the Big Ten talk. Final thoughts from anyone? Any final words on the Big Ten this season?
I think it's going to be, it's basically a 4-team race: Michigan State, Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Nebraska.
Okay. Anything to add to that?
I got to give my props out to my boy Ethan Ruland. Ethan, love you, man.
All right.
I think Michigan State wins Big Ten this year.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. When we come back, we're going to talk the Lake Orion playoff matchup versus Walled Lake.
Central.
Walled Lake Central, that is, excuse me. And you're watching Between Taorminas on ONTV.
Can ONTV really change the way you see Orion? Can a community hold a talent show to raise mental health awareness?
ONTV, a part of Orion's history since 1986. Video classes are now enrolling. Call 248-693-3377 to reserve your seat today. A service of Orion Neighborhood Television. This is you, and this is your community. You have a great idea, but how do you get that idea to your community? ONTV has your answer. You see, ONTV is a part of your community. We help you get your idea on cable, so everyone you know will learn about your great idea. So, what are you waiting for? Get your idea on cable and into your community. Get your idea on TV.
Well, this is always a bittersweet time for me and the brothers. The last segment of this week's Between Taormina. Today we're going to focus on the Lake Orion playoff matchup between Walled Lake Central and our Dragons meeting this Friday at Lake Orion. Boys, what happens? What you want to talk about the road that they took to get here?
What a draw. I mean, like, if you look at the Michigan High School association draw, most experts had Romeo in there. But apparently what they did was they made it a north-south type format, and then they just weighted out the teams, you know. Whereas if you look at Lake Orion's district, you know, you got Lake Orion, you got Clarkston, Pontiac, and Walled Lake Central, you know, in one district, which makes it interesting because, like, if you look at it from that perspective, I think the Dragons got a good draw here.
Okay.
I think that
I got a question for you real quick. How do you feel about him always taking the questions first? Wouldn't you like to go first once in a while?
Nah, I have no problem with it.
Okay, all right. Go on.
I feel like that. I feel, to be fair, I do agree that Lake Orion does have a pretty good district. I think that also pretty good regional. If you look at the regional on the other side, they've got, you know, Troy, Athens, Dakota, Eisenhower, and Romeo in that one. And then you've got Lake Orion, Walled Lake Central, Clarkston, and Pontiac on there. And if you look at basically with the guys, obviously that loss to Clarkston will motivate them. Obviously to get back at Clarkston should they get by Walled Lake Central this week. I think that, you know, not looking too far ahead, I just think all you have to do is just take your work one game at a time, and you just, you know, go on from there. I know it's win or go home.
Right, right.
But, you know, I just take it one game at a time. Doesn't matter who you play. And I think, you know, last week is last week. It's done. It's in the past.
That's what the Dragons got to forget about, is that loss to Clarkson, that 10-point lead they blew late in the fourth quarter, you know, late in that touchdown by Banger with about 59 seconds left in the game. I think that's what the Dragons need to forget about. And I think now, this week...
This is a whole new season. Everyone starts 0-0.
It is a whole new season, yes. But if you look at it, the Dragons, I thought, drew a good opponent in Walled Lake Central.
Walled Lake Central,
yes, I do. Walled Lake Central is a team that runs a wing T offense and also a veer option offense.
And the winner of that game gets either Pontiac or Clarkston. If you look at Clarkston or Pontiac, you know, both those teams, should the Dragons win, are beatable. Yeah. And I mean, you and I saw Clarkston last week. I mean, they're not very good. I feel like they're not as good as people say they are. I think that they're a little bit overhyped.
Well,
but then, you know,
on that point.
Then if the Dragons get by that, not looking too far, well, looking a little bit farther ahead, you know, then you've got Eisenhower, and I think Eisenhower, Eisenhower or Romeo or Dakota, or I know Athens is beatable, but I feel like the other three Macomb County teams, as well-known programs as they are, they're beatable, and I think that it could. You know, they can get to Ford Field. Obviously, Warren De La Salle is going to be a little bit of a challenge. But
well, let's get back to this game. What do you like specifically about the matchup with Walled Lake Central?
Well, if you look at it, this is basically, if the defense is smart in this game, and I'm calling out defensive coordinator Dave Tooley on this.
Call him out.
If the Dragons defense up in the middle, if the Dragons can stop the veer option that Walled Lake Central will produce, if they can stop their quarterback, then I think the Dragons can win this game. And I think they can win it handily. But the problem is, if you looked at it last week with Clarkston, I mean, like, they gave up so many yards down the middle. And if they do that again against Walled Lake Central, the Dragons might go
trouble.
Home.
Right. And they're home. That helps a lot.
Yep, I do agree on that.
I think that, you know, there's the sad thing about not playing Adams this year, because Adams runs the veer option, and Walled Lake Central and Adams are two very similar teams.
Right.
I do think that the Dragons will win this game. I do feel like the Dragons will go deep into the playoffs. I feel like that they'll go far.
What's the score on this game?
I want to say, because I don't usually give up predictions during game days or until game days.
Okay.
And I'm not going to give it. I'm not going to give a score, but I'm going to probably. I'm leaning more towards a route.
Going with the Dragons in a route. Sam, you
I'm going to say Lake Orion in this game, winning at 35-21. I have my reasons because if you look at the defense of the Dragons, I mean, like, if the defense doesn't show up ready to play in this game, when they played Clarkson last week, they looked shell-shocked. And if they do that again in the playoffs, you know, they're going home. I mean, like, but I think the Dragons have too much firepower, too much depth, and I think that they better not get stagnant in the fourth quarter offensively like they did against Clarkson. If not, that's going to come back and haunt them. But I still think the Dragons can win this game. I'm saying 35-21, but I think Sean Charette will have a nice bounce-back game.
He needs to.
Yep.
Could be his last game.
It could be his last game. And
all right.
Dragon fans do not want.
No, absolutely not. Last week we had a question from Andy K. in San Francisco. Thank you very much, Andy. It was a great question. This week, our question submitted via our Facebook page comes from Susan in Fargo. We got well-traveled viewers. That's great.
Yeah, I think. Did I see her at Fargo?
He's been to Fargo. He could.
Yeah, I mean.
He knows Susan. They go way back.
What?
That one night in Fargo. Don't worry.
Oh! We'll talk later on that.
All right. Miss Susan's question is cheerleading a sport?
Yes, cheerleading is a sport because
Sammy, you're a former cheerleader.
No, I am not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Anyway, cheerleading is a sport because if you look at it, you know, the girls lift, you know what I mean? They have to do a lot of stunts, you know what I mean? I mean, like,
I know what you mean.
I mean, like, if you look at it from that perspective, like, I think, you know, they're in competition as well. You know, like, if you see it from that perspective or point, you know, they work as hard every day.
Yep.
You know, so basically they're in there every night as well, you know what I mean? Basically, like,
You're gonna let me talk?
Looks like your brother wants to say something.
Yeah, I'll let you go ahead.
All right.
This topic has been debated upon for years.
And
Is cheerleading a
still
sport?
going on. What do you think?
It's still going on. Do I think cheerleading is a sport? To me,
That's what Susan wants to know.
I can see yes and no.
Give me a definitive answer.
I'll give you one answer I feel like. But I'm going to say that cheerleading, I'll say that it's a competitive sport because you have teams competing.
Sport.
You have teams competing in it, though I can understand people saying that it's not a sport.
Okay.
But
What does Anthony say?
I'm going to go because it's such a debated topic. It's such a controversial topic. And I don't really want to take sides on this topic, so I'm not going to answer this question.
You're a bit pacifist today, huh? You know, you don't want to give a
right.
score. You don't want to tell us if cheerleading's a sport.
Right.
All right, maybe we have to go to Sammy more often then, huh? 'Cause you're not going to give us answers. Jeez, oh Pete's. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sad to say, but that is the end of our show today. Our second show here from Oscar's Bar and Grill. We thank the folks of Oscar's for their hospitality today. And we thank you for watching, and we hope you'll join us next week here on Orion Neighborhood Television, Between Taorminas.
God bless you all.
God bless you all indeed.